Congresswoman, thank you so much for being on the program. We have been detailing over the past few days the abuses by the FBI to rig elections, to interfere in our elections, to thumb their nose at the constitutional responsibility to have oversight via Congress. There's a reason why your branch is number one and why the FBI is number two in the executive branch. The FBI is actually just an executive order. It could be done away by a pen stroke by any president who wants to, actually. So the FBI isn't even real. But they are defying your chairman, James Comer, in not releasing this FD 1023 form that apparently details a criminal scheme by Joe Biden. Can you fill us in on the updates there and what would be the consequences for not giving this form over to your committee?
Yes, and this is a very important topic for people to follow, Benny. So I really appreciate you of being one of the leaders in telling this story. What has happened is we have subpoenaed FD 1023 from Christopher Wray at the FBI. And this form, we know about it because of a very brave whistleblower that came forward through Senator Grassley. And we're very thankful for this person's courage because they do fear for their own life. And it's understandable that that's the case. But so far, Christopher Wray has refused to hand over this form. And what we know the form details and outlines is that a foreign national paid Joe Biden directly when he was vice president of the United States in return for foreign policy decisions. That is completely illegal. And Joe Biden would have to be impeached for that. If not, there should be, well, we can't imagine not impeaching him for that, but even it could lead to criminal charges, depending on the circumstances and the proof that we're able to show. So we know the form exists. We know the story exists. We know it's real. We're thankful for our whistleblower. But the defiance coming from Christopher Wray will not be tolerated by House Republicans. It will not be tolerated by Chairman Jamie Comer on the Oversight Committee, and it's also not going to be tolerated by the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. So this is a very important issue, and we are working on it.
So what does not be tolerated mean?
Well, we will continue to look at all legal ways to pursue this document. We also have other avenues. Appropriations season is happening, and we know that the FBI needs their funding. And other ways, or I've introduced articles of impeachment against Christopher Wray for his abuse of power and politicizing the Federal Bureau of Investigations to target his political enemies. He's doing the bidding of Merrick Garland, who has politicized the Department of Justice in unbelievable, unspeakable ways. He's also doing the bidding of his Democrat president, Joe Biden, who is the one probably calling the shots for the FBI and the Department of Justice to target Joe Biden's top political opponent, former President Donald J. Trump, who is also the leading Republican candidate in the Republican presidential primary for 2024. So this is something that's unprecedented. We shouldn't see this happening from taxpayer-funded government and powerful agencies like the FBI and the Department of Justice. And Republicans are looking at any means necessary to rein them in.
So any means necessary would look like cutting their funding. What other holding in contempt is what James Comer said last night on television. This is, again, them protecting Joe Biden. Is there anything else inside of the toolkit here to use against the FBI?
Well, absolutely. Holding him in contempt is definitely something that we will do if we have to. But we have to look at the parameters that we exist in. The House of Representatives, what our tools are in our toolbox. We can hold them in contempt. We can look at their funding and cut funding. We can impeach. These are the parameters that we have to work in. So we have to make sure that we're following our Constitution, following our laws, and we have to make sure that House Republicans can also hold accountability at the same time.
On a more esoteric level, as it pertains to the actual philosophy of governance, you have Josh Hawley in the other chamber saying the FBI really needs to be done away with. It's just so rotted. Then you have RFK Jr. saying the same thing, actually defending Donald Trump, saying that they staged a coup against Donald Trump. You have, and of course, RFK, the Kennedy family would know about staging coups via our deep state. You have Chuck Todd, of all people, not a fan of yours, but Chuck Todd saying there needs to be a new church committee. Saying that you haven't seen a decline like since J. Edgar Hoover. There hasn't been like a politically weaponized. I mean, it seems like the energy and the momentum is on your side here. Would you be in favor of the next Republican president potentially doing away with the executive order that is the FBI? Like, what higher level reforms need to happen to ensure this, what we just lived through, never happens again?
Mm-hmm. Benny, I think I'm on record as being the first Republican to publicly say to defund the FBI. I'm pretty sure I am the first one. I fully support defunding them, ripping apart the agency, but I also want to rebuild it. We need federal law enforcement, but we need federal law enforcement that actually does their job and goes after real criminals. And there are real criminals that we should be concerned on the federal level. So there is a very important role for a federal law enforcement agency, but the Federal Bureau of Investigations has become completely rotten from the inside out. And this is something that we have to make sure that we can go after. And I'll tell you the truth, Benny, we can't do these things without full control starting in 2025 after the 2024 elections. And that happens at the White House, that happens in the Senate, and that happens in the House. And it's also why I'm fully supporting President Trump. I've said it from day one. We have to bring President Trump back to Washington. We need him back in the White House because he's also one of the only ones. I think he is the only one that has the courage, the will, and has already said he's going to do it.
You're very close with Donald Trump. You speak with him regularly. He's obviously a big fan of yours. The best photo op ever was you laughing alongside Tucker and Trump at the golf course. It's great. So he clearly confides in you. The people that I know inside of the Trump orbit said that Donald Trump didn't pursue prosecution against Hillary Clinton, even though he had every right to, because there were open investigations in the FBI. We now know that all of that evidence has been destroyed at the order of Joe Biden. That broke this morning. Because Donald Trump didn't want to tear the country apart. They said that Donald Trump magnanimously didn't want to engage in a political prosecution or persecution of somebody seen as his political enemy. Do you think that that would be the same tact he would take were he reelected in 2024?
Well, I think that what we saw the first time under President Trump, and let's be straight about it, Benny, what an incredible 4-year record President Trump had when he was president. What an incredible record for the American people and America on the world stage. I mean, there's so many things we can brag about that he did during that first 4 years. But you're also bringing up a very good point. And President Trump has learned every lesson there could be to learn. Is when he came in the first time, he didn't have support of the people he thought and should have had the support of. As a matter of fact, many of them stabbed him in the back. Well, when we bring him back the next time, that's going to change because he'll have the support of people like me. And we will not stab him in the back. As a matter of fact, we will watch his back continuously 24 hours a day. And we'll do everything that we can in our power to make sure that his agenda gets done. And that goes with cleaning out the swamp. It needs to be drained once and for all. And that's gutting these agencies of these people who abuse their power as federal employees on the taxpayers' dime while they use their jobs as weapons in politics, all to sway elections, to sway it their way, and to support the people they want in office and to support the radical Marxist agenda for America. We aren't going to allow that to happen, Benny, but we are going to need everyone's help all across America going into 2024 to make that happen.
You are up against true evil. I have a final question for you here as it pertains to, I think, the most important piece of news coming out of your office in the last week or two. Marjorie Taylor Greene plans to lead a probe into Hunter Biden's paying for sex workers amid fears that they were human trafficking victims as House Oversight Committee looks into concealed cash from foreign nationals. So you are going to go full in, Leroy Jenkins, on Hunter Biden's predilection and potentially with Joe Biden's financial assistance in engaging in human sex trafficking. Can you fill us in on where this stands right now?
Well, Benny, you know, America watched in horror at the report of the Hunter Biden laptop that came out before the 2020 election. And then 51 members of the intelligence community signed their name to a lie, to lie to Americans that the contents of the laptop were nothing but Russian misinformation. Those 51 agents need their security clearances ripped away, and they should be held accountable for those lies. We can't trust those people. But some of the things we found out there was the extreme level of drug abuse and participation, hiring sex workers and participating with human sex trafficking. But what we saw when oversight members went to the Treasury and read these financial reports that are SARS that we read in the Treasury, but we saw the proof coming from the banks stating alleged human sex trafficking. And this involves Hunter Biden and his law firm. And then we're able to match it up with bank records. That's when I said this is enough, that the American people deserve to see this. So we are diligently working through this process. But in order to bring them forward, this requires a lot of bravery from women who I'm sure have been through a lot, and I have a lot of compassion for. It would require their bravery to come forward. But hopefully we can at least get their testimonies in private and then decide where we can go and move forward from there.
So a follow-up to that, are you currently engaging in behind closed doors testimonies with people who may have been sex trafficking victims abused by Hunter Biden?
Well, at this time, this is a process that we're working, and I think it's a very important process. It is because, and I'll tell you why. Here's the real reason that we really need to talk to these women is quite a few of them are not American citizens. They're from Russia and Ukraine. And we've already had one member of Congress, Eric Swalwell, who had a sexual relationship with a Chinese spy. What we need to know, and I think it's important for our national security interest, is we need to know what these prostitutes from Russia and Ukraine were privy to hearing about, what information they may have seen, where they went, anything that they may have found out. And we need to know because it's important for our national security.
Final, just real quick follow-up, because Jeffrey Epstein's in the news, man. They broke yesterday. Bill Gates getting extorted by Jeffrey Epstein for affairs with a Russian. It's just fill in the blanks. It's Mad Libs. Very similar stuff happened with the Biden. Very similar stuff with Bill Clinton. Would you be for, let's say that Republicans had a really good election year. Would you be for the revisiting of this Epstein scandal, potentially like releasing some more of the names, maybe having a special committee to look into it to see who involved in our government? For instance, Joe Biden's CIA director met with Epstein multiple times. Maybe get to the bottom of some of that stuff, because a lot of people are asking, why was this man so connected to officials that remain inside of our federal government?
Yeah, Benny, isn't it very interesting that the Democrats always accuse us of being pro-Russia and pro-Putin, but in reality, they seem to be all wrapped up in the bedroom in really nasty, creepy ways with Russia. I always think that's interesting. As far as Jeffrey Epstein's concerned, I'm for the full client list being completely revealed to the American people. And I think we need to hold investigations into the types of relationships Jeffrey Epstein had with the most powerful people in our United States government and the world. People need to know exactly the truth about Jeffrey Epstein and what his role was pertaining to our government and relationships with the CIA and other agencies. Everyone knows what a disgusting pedophile Jeffrey Epstein was, human trafficker, and the things that went on at his very famous island need to be revealed. I think there's a lot that Americans deserve to know, and they need to stop hiding the information. So I'm all for it and would work diligently to make that happen.
Yeah, I think they need to know about former presidents and what they did on these islands. I think the American public, you were our president. We have a right to know.
Yep, that's right.
We've seen the flight logs. Yeah, we've seen the flight logs. We've seen your wife. Like, you should be disgraced. If you've done things to be disgraced for, you should be disgraced publicly.
Yeah, Bill Clinton's on the flight log, 26 times? Hillary Clinton's on the flight log. I don't know how many times, but multiple times. Why were they going to Jeffrey Epstein's island? Why were they hanging out with a known convicted pedophile? And Bill Gates, what was he doing with this Russian woman and funding her so-called project that she had? No, there's a lot of information that people deserve to know. And I fully support Americans getting to know that.
Yeah, that's right. Along with the painting of Bill Clinton in Monica Lewinsky's dress that hung inside of Jeffrey Epstein's boudoir. But that's a subject for another time. Marjorie Taylor Greene. These are tough topics. Sex trafficking is such an evil topic, and God bless you for taking it on.
Yeah, Benny, anytime you want to talk about art, we can talk about the Podesta's paintings and their art collection. We can talk about Jeffrey Epstein's art. I'm all in for it. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Thank you.